Evening, I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler, and welcome to the presentation, the long range discussion presentation for the 17th of October 2022. And we're about 2 weeks out from Halloween. Figured this was an appropriate picture to start tonight's presentation. A lot of glowing pumpkins, and a lot of folks right now are out doing fall activities, and they're really curious about what lies ahead with the weather coming up over the next couple weekends, specifically for fall festivals and in preparation for Halloween. So let's go ahead and take a look at the long-range discussion. Right, so I'll start things off by first taking a look at the current satellite and radar images for this evening, the 17th of October 2022. And what we have going on the satellite image tonight is we have a large, very intense closed upper level low, which is positioned generally over southeastern Canada. And there's a cold front. There's a cold front that is being dragged down through the mid-Atlantic states, specifically eastern Virginia tonight. And there are some thunderstorms that have popped up ahead of the surface frontal boundary, the strong cold front that's about to move through. And I'll show you what it looks like on my radar display here at the end of the video. Real interesting stuff in the last hour has occurred. Just saw some penny-sized hail fall in a particular thunderstorm burst right outside in Virginia Beach here. So what we got is a large upper level low. It's an occluded low. A strong cold front will be pushing offshore off the east coast. There's a lot more moisture and scattered thunderstorms there over the northern Gulf and along the Gulf Coast states, along Interstate 10 this evening. And then we have this very strongly anomalous upper level ridge, very dry, unusually warm across the northwestern U.S. for this evening, and as well as the last few days, unusually warm temperatures. Here is the satellite image showing the moisture associated with the occluded low over southeastern Canada, extending back along the surface cold front down through parts of New York City this evening, down just to the east of Washington, D.C. area. And we are seeing some scattered thunderstorms developing ahead of the surface frontal, the cold front at the surface this evening. As you can see again out west, very dry conditions because you're beneath this upper level ridge. Here's a surface analysis for this evening, the 17th of October 2022. And these brown lines here represent lines of equibarometric pressure. These are known as isobars. They're drawn in 4 millibar intervals. And whenever you see these lines packed closely together, that indicates there's some significant wind. Specifically, if you look up here in the upper Midwest, into parts of Minnesota, over Lake Superior, into parts of eastern Canada, there's a lot of wind energy going on. There's a strong pressure difference in the horizontal, over a fairly short horizontal distance at that. So a lot of pressure changes over a shorter distance. We have very strong high pressure that's starting to descend out of central Canada. It's moving from north to south, and it's on the front side of this high pressure system we're seeing, and behind the cold front, which is extending there across parts of eastern PA down through parts of southeastern Virginia this evening and down all the way clearing the Gulf Coast this evening. We have some very chilly air working its way south all the way down to the Gulf Coast. And the Tuesday through Thursday period are going to be abnormally colder than normal for a lot of cities in the eastern U.S. Let's take a look at the sea surface temperature comparisons between October of 2021 on this date last year versus this date this year. Take a look at the above normal sea surface temperature anomalies in degrees Celsius. They're in the reddish or the reddish orange coloring. And anything below normal for sea surface temperature anomalies are in the blue coloring. So last year, let's focus first to last year here on the left. Notice that we did have an area of cooler than normal waters in the Gulf of Alaska last year at this time. We also had above normal water temperatures extending across the north central Pacific Ocean. We had cooler than normal water extending off the coast of California all the way to the Hawaiian Islands. And then we had a La Nina signature showing up here, generally across the eastern and central equatorial Pacific waters. And then on the Atlantic side, we had a little bit of below normal temperatures there off of Nova Scotia, but generally above normal water temperatures south of Greenland down along off the New England coast. Looking at this year's sea surface temperature anomaly map in degrees Celsius, note how we have now in the Gulf of Alaska above normal water temperatures. And also those above normal water temperatures are a little bit further to the northwest as compared to last year in this state. And those above normal water temperatures extend back west towards the coast of Japan. We still see that very strong La Nina signal with below normal water temperatures this year, right now for today's date, extending from the eastern and central equatorial Pacific. And then we also have a little bit more widespread warmer than normal waters across the North Atlantic this particular October compared to last year on this date. So I like to look at these comparisons and see how these anomalies are lining up and how these potentially can impact the long wave pattern, the jet stream pattern over the later fall and early winter time periods. All right, so now let's get into the longer range discussion. We're going to start with the 300 millibar wind speeds, and I'm going to talk about the 21st to the 25th of October 2022 on all of these different slides that are going to be following, that are coming up. In general, I'm going to start off with Friday the 21st of October in the upper left. In the center top there, I'm going to talk about the forecast for the 22nd of October. The far right, upper right, is the 23rd of October. Bottom left, 24 October, and the bottom right, 25 October. Now what we're looking at here are the wind speeds and the directions up at 300 millibars. That's 30,000 feet above the ground. This is where our jet stream resides. So first things first, let's take a look at this image here in the upper left. And note we have some stronger wind speeds from the southwest, generally out over Nova Scotia and over the North Atlantic. We have a lot of stronger wind speeds actually all the way over the waters, above the waters of the Western Atlantic Ocean this evening, on the 21st of October. And note that we have some stronger northerly winds coming down across the eastern U.S. There's another jet max or jet streak extending across central Canada, just north of the Great Lakes region. Now let's move the forecast ahead to Saturday, the 22nd of October 2022. We see there's now a very strong jet max digging out on the backside of this trough by Saturday. Wind speeds are in excess of 144 to 152 knots. And we have a long wave trough now over the western U.S. And that's a big pattern change from what we're used to seeing here recently, where we've been dominated predominantly by a huge upper level ridge in the western U.S. So the pattern is going to change by the weekend to more of a trough and cooler temperatures finally for those of you in Washington and Oregon. Additionally, we have the main jet stream axis extending up towards central Canada, then moving over into southeastern Canada. Now, the forecast here on the top right for the 23rd of October, this will be the Sunday, shows that those jet max at higher wind speeds within the jet core extending across Oregon down into Nevada, as well as another jet max there in the Colorado area. So we have that trough generally located over the western U.S. again on this Sunday, the 23rd of October. And then we do see a little bit of ridging trying to build in over the eastern U.S. Moving ahead now, bottom left, to the 24th of October, next Monday. It looks at this time that we're forecasting more of a zonal west to east jet stream. So the jet stream goes from highly amplified and meridional to more west to east zonal in a look here from the jet stream axis extending from Washington State right through southern Idaho, southern Wyoming, with a stronger jet max across parts of eastern Nebraska into Iowa. And then we have more of that ridging again along the east coast of the United States up towards New England. And then finally, the forecast at 300 millibars for wind direction and speed. This is for next Tuesday, the 25th of October, again showing more of a zonal west to east orientation to the polar front jet stream axis, extending from southern Idaho right on through the Dakotas into parts of the upper Midwest. Now let's take a look at the 500 millibar wind heights and vorticity for the same time period, starting with Friday, the 21st of October in the upper left. Anytime you see some of these brighter colors, it indicates positive vorticity in the atmosphere. and that typically is associated with rising vertical air motion. So anytime you see this coloring here, the brighter coloring, the red and the green and the aqua, that type of coloring, that indicates the air is rising, and it's usually in association with these shortwave troughs on the 500 millibar level. That's about 18,000 feet above the ground. So what we have going on, a couple of disturbances on Friday. One will be over central Canada with a shortwave trough. Another disturbance will be located across New England at this point in time. There is a shortwave trough that digs all the way down into the northern Florida area as well. So we have a little bit of positive vorticity, this green color here, associated with that particular shortwave trough. When we move ahead now to Saturday, the 22nd of October, we see that trough digging out, the shortwave trough digging out, very similar to the longwave trough. We do see rising vertical air motion associated with positive vorticity across parts of southeastern Oregon by Saturday. Looking ahead now to Sunday the 23rd of October here in the upper right, showing that shortwave trough axis moving slowly towards the east. The axis is now centered over Montana down to Wyoming, and you do see some positive vorticity, a potential rising vertical air motion there across parts of Utah and Colorado by Sunday afternoon. The east looks generally quiet in general, with that shortwave ridge building in from New England up into southeastern Canada. And then the forecast in the bottom left corner here, the Monday, the 24th of October. And now look at the shortwave trough. It's become a completely closed off low as it moves across Minnesota by next Monday, the 24th of October, closed upper level low at 500 millibars. And we have vorticity extending along the leading edge of the shortwave trough across parts of Wisconsin into eastern Iowa and Nebraska. Additionally, we have some increased positive vorticity across parts of the Pacific Northwest by next Monday, the 24th of October. The shortwave ridge remains in place across the mid-Atlantic up through New England next Monday. So we're looking at milder temperatures with dry conditions in the east next Monday. And then Tuesday, the 25th of October, here in the bottom right, here is the vorticity and the 500 millibar wind and heights, showing that shortwave trough is now moved off to the northeast. It's now located, the upper closed low is in the vicinity of Hudson Bay with a stretched out or sheared lobe of vorticity over parts of Michigan into Wisconsin. There is another shortwave trough that develops by next Tuesday, the 25th, over the Oklahoma area and the Texas Panhandle area. So there is a shortwave trough and a little bit of positive vorticity associated with it by next Tuesday. Looking at the thickness chart forecast between 21 and 25 October 2022, this is the forecast for the thickness as well as precipitation, the green coloring indicating precipitation. And we're just looking at precipitation in general. We're not looking at coloring schemes for both snow versus rain. We're just looking at where the precip is in association with the thickness lines. In general, on Friday, the 21st of October, we see some lower thicknesses across the eastern seaboard, and it's still indicative of some cooler air in place. The coolest air will be in association with these blue dash lines over New England, the lowest thickness values across parts of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and New York State. Most of the nation is pretty dry, by the way, for Friday, the 21st of October. So if you have travel plans, it looks pretty good as a whole across the United States. There may be a little bit of moisture moving onshore there into parts of northwestern Washington state. Saturday, the 22nd of October, we now have a trough digging, and we have more of that rising air motion. We just talked about it. See, look at this. See the positive vorticity here, the red coloring and the yellows and the greens. That vorticity gets stronger, and then you're also getting a tighter curvature, cyclonic curvature of the trough. So we got a little bit of a digging trough out here in the Pacific Northwest by Saturday afternoon, the 22nd of October. So it might be a little bit wet on Saturday for parts of Idaho down southwestward into northern Nevada, as well as northern California, and along Interstate 5, Washington, down to Oregon. The rest of the country looks pretty good. We do see some ridging occurring, generally out ahead of the shortwave trough. As this digs deeper to the south, this ridge and these thicknesses increase ahead of the trough and pop up here with some milder conditions across the northern plain states by Saturday. A lot of moisture is going to be concentrated across the open waters of the western Atlantic Ocean by Saturday. By Sunday, we see that shortwave trough again pivoting to the east, and we also see thicknesses much lower than what they've been out in the western U.S., specifically Montana, Idaho, and Washington, Oregon. So it's going to be much chillier than what you've been accustomed to with these record highs lately across the Pacific Northwest. So very unsettled if you got travel plans, or if you live in any of these areas on Sunday, Montana down to Wyoming, parts of Colorado. By Monday, the 24th of October, we see another system moving in the Pacific Northwest. So we do see some scattered rain showers along Oregon as well as Washington State down into Idaho. We do see a little bit of moisture coming into parts of Arizona. By the way, this is an association with a tropical system that kind of just drifts to the north across Baja into the Gulf of California. So we may see some heavier showers across parts of southern Arizona by Monday the 24th. Meanwhile, on the upper Midwest, we see the closed low situated over northern Minnesota, and we have an occluded, very mature system here. We got a lot of shower activity, potentially snowflakes mixing in on the backside here into parts of south central Canada, with more in the way of precipitation extending southwestward along a frontal boundary into parts of Michigan, Wisconsin, down to northern Illinois. And there is a little bit of moisture just offshore of the New England coast as well there by Monday, the 24th of October. And then by the 25th of October, note we do have more of a zonal jet stream setting up west to east. It's not as amplified, the troughs and ridges, as you can see here. So we have more west to east jet stream axis. We do have some unsettled weather. If you have travel plans in Oklahoma and to northern Texas for next Tuesday, the 25th of October. So it could be a little bit wet there. Looking at the forecast high temps, 21 to 25 October. For Friday, the 21st of October, along the eastern U.S., temperatures are slowly moderating from an unseasonable chill that's occurring between Tuesday and Thursday. So by the Friday, the 21st, we're starting to see the yellow coloring here indicates 60s, the lighter orange coloring 70s, the brighter orange coloring, that indicates 80s. So in general, we have the coolest temperatures on Friday across the northern U.S., with high temperatures generally into the 50s for parts of Pennsylvania, down the Appalachians, as well as up into New England. By Saturday, the 22nd of October, the coldest temperatures are in association with that trough that is dug in across the Pacific Northwest. And so we're looking at temperatures really chilly. I mean, we're talking temperatures highs in the 40s in a lot of locations, and the higher elevations could be even colder than that by Saturday. And then milder conditions across the central U.S., Midwest, as well as the East Coast. Temperatures return into the lower 70s by Saturday. Sunday, the 23rd of October, note how the shape of the trough is very evident. Within the base of the trough is where you're going to find the coolest temperatures, these white colors and these lighter magenta coloring, and the dark blue and purple. That's the coldest temperatures on this particular chart for Sunday. And notice that's associated with where that trough's located. Out ahead of the trough, very mild conditions. In fact, it could get downright warm across parts of Kansas into Oklahoma and Texas by Sunday as southerly winds increase ahead of this trough. Elsewhere across the eastern U.S., it's a completely different reversal in the pattern with much milder conditions all the way up to Maine. And then by Monday, the 24th of October, note the trough is still in place across the western U.S. based on these temperatures. We have the coolest temperatures across parts of Montana, Idaho, into Wyoming and Colorado. And then we have the warmest temperatures extending out ahead of the trough axis once more and ahead of a surface cold frontal boundary. Highs are going to be in the 80s down in southeastern Texas and upper 70s along the Gulf Coast and 80s into Florida once more. By the time we get to the high temperatures for Tuesday, the 25th of October, we do see a little bit of cooler air moving towards the east across parts of Minnesota, Michigan. We do have the mildest temperatures south of that frontal boundary, especially along Interstate 10, highs in the 80s, with 70s going all the way up to D.C. and to parts of Philly, parts of the Midwest, including Illinois and Indiana. All that snow you're seeing in Indiana tonight is going to be long gone by the time we get next week because that pattern change, much milder temperatures. As for forecast low temperatures, you can definitely tell that we're getting deeper into October by the color scheme here. These are forecast low temperatures for Friday morning across the United States, showing a pretty cold eastern U.S. I mean, all the way down to Interstate 10, all the way down to the Florida Panhandle. We have some very chilly temperatures, generally into the 40s, Some 50s, some pockets of 50s. Higher elevations, the Appalachians on Friday morning will be in the 30s. So very chilly. We look at the forecast lows for Saturday morning. We're starting to lose some of the pinker, colder colors here, right, in the upper Midwest. Temperatures are starting to gradually moderate. We are seeing a warm tongue develop out ahead of that surface cold front in the upper level trough. And so you see more southerly wind flow coming in off the Gulf of Mexico. And that's going to result in warmer low temperatures into the lower 60s again, even the middle 60s down in Texas by Saturday morning. And then by Sunday morning, you see the coolest air kind of just moving down the spine of the Appalachians in the east. And then you see how this warm tongue continues to expand to the north, all the way up into parts of Iowa, western Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, down on the Gulf Coast. The mildest temperatures are indicated by the yellow and the orange coloring. Yellow, the lighter yellow indicates lows in the 60s, and this darker orange coloring is closer to 70. And then when we get to the forecast for Monday morning, the low temperatures definitely can see the outline very well of where the cold front's located, with the milder air moving, streaming from Texas northeast to Illinois ahead of the surface frontal boundary. And look how cold the higher elevations are going to be out to the west. We're talking about low temperatures in the teens and 20s across parts of the higher elevations of the Rocky Mountains by next Monday morning, the 24th of October. And then for the forecast lows for next Tuesday, the 25th of October, the temperatures do cool off across the Midwest as the cold front does sag to the south across the Ohio River Valley. South of the front is where you're going to get the warmest temperatures overnight into the early morning, with lows in the 70s for Louisiana, East Texas, up to Arkansas. Still remaining fairly chilly at night along the eastern seaboard. As far as forecast temperature anomalies now, starting off with this Friday, the 21st of October, look where all the warmer than normal temperatures are located by this brighter coloring here, the orangish maroon coloring. Temperatures during the afternoon are going to be 10 to 15 degrees above normal in Iowa, Missouri, parts of Kansas and Nebraska, as well as over parts of Wyoming into Idaho, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, and California. This Friday morning, the 21st of October. And look how the warmer temperatures shift towards the east, specifically towards New England, by Saturday morning, the 22nd of October, with the warmest low temperatures occurring across parts of the Dakotas into Nebraska, where low temperatures could run on the order of 20 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. Look at the cool down that's going on along the western U.S. area by Saturday morning as that trough moves in. The pattern reverses from a ridge to a trough, and look at the cooler temperatures you're seeing. So hopefully you folks out here can get a chance to enjoy some cooler weather and feel like fall. Looking at the forecast lows for Sunday, wow. Very abnormally warm temperatures overnight from Kansas up to Minnesota. Low temperatures in Iowa and parts of eastern Nebraska are 20 degrees Fahrenheit above normal for late October, and then much below normal again within the base of that trough. Much cooler conditions across parts of Montana, Wyoming, parts of western Colorado, Utah, as well as Nevada. And then Monday, the 24th of October, 2022, it's kind of like a reverse pattern again, like I said, of what's going on this week. You have the warmest temperatures generally to the east of the Rockies, and you have the coolest temperatures to the west of the Rocky Mountains, all the way to the west coast and into the northern plains. And then by Tuesday, the 25th of October, much milder air streams into the eastern seaboard, New England, southeastern Canada, into the Midwest, and cooler temperatures begin to move a little bit further to the south from the Dakotas, where low temperatures will be about 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit below normal across North Dakota into Montana by next Tuesday morning. Looking at the monthly temperature anomalies, okay, this is October of 2022 this year so far, anomalies from the actual mean temperatures, and on the right is this is last October 2021. All right, so we are expecting milder temperatures in the eastern U.S. So right now, this is what it looks like for the month of October 2022, with well above normal temperatures in the western U.S. and well below normal temperatures in the eastern U.S. Now, we will see some milder temperatures here coming up as the pattern flips to more of a negative PNA, or Pacific North American pattern. We will see some cooler temperatures out here. So the question is at the end of the month, will it look like this? I don't know. It'd have to take some very, very warm or above normal temperatures in the east to really erase this cooler than normal range of temperatures. But I mean, we still have time. I mean, tomorrow's the 18th of October, so there's still a couple weeks left in the month where this can change somewhat. But this was last year in October, and look how, on the right here, last October, look how much above normal it was in New England, the upper Midwest, into the Ohio River Valley, and the eastern U.S. in general. Well above normal. From October last year, it was below normal across California, along the Interstate 5 corridor, in Washington, in Oregon, Utah, Arizona. Look at this. So right now, this is a big difference between this October and last October. Here's the Teleconnections Forecast. Just wanted to throw this out. Of course, I get way more extensive and in-depth on my weekly teleconnections discussion. But in general, I wanted to show you what's going on using the European deterministic model in this particular case for today's video. And we see the AO is generally straddling neutral conditions between now and, say, the 27th of October. You know, it does go positive briefly, then comes back down again towards neutral. Overall, if you were to average this out, you're looking closer to the neutral conditions for the AO through the end of October. And the NAO, North Atlantic Oscillation Forecast here on the right, showing it going briefly negative for this particular week, and then kind of going back towards neutral conditions, but not really dipping much farther below the line by late October. So I would consider this negative, then mainly neutral after that for the NAO forecast. The Pacific North American pattern, now this is the dominant teleconnection right now. And you know why by just looking at this. You have this huge positive value occurring with the PNA for this week. And that's causing that ridge to just build really high in amplitude to the north over the western portions of North America. But look at the forecast, how it shows the PNA coming down. I mean, this is a hard crash according to the European deterministic. And so that would mean now we're going towards a negative PNA, from a positive PNA this week to a negative PNA definitely this weekend through 26 October. I have looked at other model runs showing this coming back up closer to neutral conditions by Halloween, the PNA. So we'll have to see how the trend continues here in the future. But this indicates positive PNA, that upper level ridge west, the trough, the deep trough in the east. The higher this goes, this value, the stronger the ridge, which means the deeper the trough downstream of that ridge. And that's why you're going to get record chill in the east this week, but then the west could be much cooler with that trough moving in this weekend, and especially next week. Here is the EPO forecast, the Eastern Pacific Oscillation Forecast, with a negative EPO. That indicates more of that ridging. A positive EPO next week would indicate more of the troughing across the western U.S. So the teleconnections are really matching up well with the expected pattern to come in the upper air. Here is the beyond the 25th of October, looking a bit longer range. This is the Ensemble prediction system. The upper left here shows 26 October, and the current forecast for 26 October shows an upper level ridge and building northward into the Aleutians of western Alaska, and then a downstream trough. The green coloring indicate below normal heights across parts of the Pacific Northwest, and then more of that ridging again. It starts to expand a little bit more offshore New England towards on the North Atlantic side. Looking at the forecast for 27 October here in the upper right, showing a very similar pattern. Now that ridge does weaken somewhat there in, just south of the Aleutian Islands in the Northeast Pacific. That trough remains in place across the western U.S. by the 27th, and then we have ridging and above normal heights from New England up to southeastern Canada. Forecast here on the 28th of October in the bottom left, showing again that troughing occurring. It does slide a little bit to the east, but not much. Still pretty much influencing the western U.S. weather, and then above normal ridging across the eastern U.S. for the 28th of October. And then finally, looking all the way out to the 29th of October, we do see that trough finally weaken across the western U.S. We do see the remnants of that shortwave trough axis across the central U.S. by the 29th of October. We see cooler than normal temperatures associated with these lower than normal heights across parts of Alaska into the Northwest Territories, northern Canada. And we do see above normal heights and those are typically associated with warmer than normal temperatures, or mild temperatures at least, across the eastern U.S. up to New England by the 29th of October. So we're getting closer to Halloween at this point, getting closer to the end of October, and you kind of see which way the models are going as far as the overall pattern, with more of a trough in the west, a ridge just off the east coast. And so you're going to have cooler temperatures and some unsettled conditions in the west, and some dry and mild conditions across the east after this week's chill. Here are my final thoughts on tonight's video, the long-range discussion. Major emphasis here is the upper air patterns reversing to an upper level trough over the western U.S. and upper level ridge influencing the eastern U.S., specifically this weekend and moving ahead to early to middle part of next week. So we're expecting to go from a positive Pacific North American P&A pattern to a negative P&A pattern. Coolest air will be located over the western U.S. with the mildest air over the eastern U.S., especially again the weekend to next week. Precip will be above normal in the western U.S. associated with that trough, and then below to near normal in the eastern U.S. Now I will be keeping my eye on the tropics because there are some hints in the longer range modeling that there could potentially be some sort of either tropical or hybrid low pressure system moving up the east coast somewhere around Halloween time period to end of October. So that's something we have to keep an eye on as far as the precipitation expectancy, whether it's above or below normal in the east. And then we're continuing to watch the teleconnections and the sea surface temperature anomalies for another potential pattern change. Longer range models, even beyond here, what I'm showing you with the ensembles, are indicating, for example, the climate forecast system, the CFS, is indicating a cooler than normal or lower than normal heights across the eastern U.S. and above normal heights returning to the western U.S. up to western Canada as we get into the month of November. So it will be interesting to watch to see how everything transpires. It'll be interesting to keep watching these teleconnections and what's going on with them over time. And then again, the sea surface temperature anomalies, I find it real interesting, this particular slide that I put together. I like to compare last year's versus this year. And a couple commonalities here. La Nina's in charge across the equatorial eastern and central Pacific. Make no mistake about it in both cases. This configuration is definitely different than last year. Specifically, the placement of the warmest water and also the fact that the Gulf of Alaska last year was colder than normal, and this year it's warmer than normal. The widespread look to these warmer than normal anomalies in the water there in the Western Atlantic is another thing I'm keeping a close eye on. Again, these type of temperature anomalies can set up specific or be connected. The atmosphere can respond to this underlying water surfaces either being warmer or colder than normal, and the atmosphere responding as far as the teleconnections and as far as the long wave pattern. That's what we're really going to take a look at and keep a close eye on. All right, that wraps up the video this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. This was a long-range discussion. I'm going to be curious in the future of which product you specifically like the most from Spot On Weather. We do a lot of different products, from a weekly newsletter. You can check that out on the Spot On Weather website, the Weebly website. We do those weekly on Thursdays, the newsletters, detailing and writing pretty much what I'm discussing with you now. And then also you'll see occasional weather blogs done. You'll see the videos done and the teleconnections updates. But I think I'm going to send out to those that are subscribers on the newsletter, I'm going to see what you guys really like the most as far as products go. I do like to do a lot more videos during the fall and winter season when the atmosphere is much more dynamic. It's very exciting in the fall and winter to me because of the changeable weather. So I do a lot more videos on the YouTube channel, Spot On Weather YouTube channel in the fall and winter. I think I'm going to send out a survey of some sort, or just kind of get your feedback. Those of you that are subscribed to the weekly newsletter. If you're interested in subscribing to the newsletter, just simply go to Google Spot On Weather and look up Weebly. We're the one on Weebly, and just let us know. It's on our front homepage. You can go right down, scroll down on the front main homepage, and just put your information in there, like your email address, and we'll get you added to the distro. I appreciate the increase, the number, by the way, and the subscribers as well to the YouTube channel. Really greatly appreciate it. I love to share knowledge and what I really know about the weather to you at home, and hopefully it can impact you in a positive way. From planning your daily activities to what type of clothes you should wear a specific day. You know, I know there's a lot of winter weather nuts out there like me, where we just love winter weather. So thanks again for everybody for subscribing to the channel and for just viewing the website as well. I do updates on the website daily. I have a good weather photo gallery in the website as well, so check it out. Spot on Weather Weebly site. All right, that wraps things up this evening. Take care, everybody. Until next time, God bless.